in my old collection, which recalls bygone years, I reflected my memory with smiles and some tears. To the fancy returned to a long ago scene, and a pretty young lady made Millie hold me.
Well, the folks are coming in. This is the Thursday night entertainment for the Dalton Show. A fantastic crowd coming in. A few empty chairs yet, but boy, it's not lasting long. We're backstage, or on stage, I should say. The program is nearly ready to begin. The house is packed. It's a grand turnout for tonight.
Fairly well, in that great, getting up morning, fairly well, in that great, getting up morning, fairly well, when you see the lightning flashing, fairly well, when you hear the thunder crashing, fairly well, when you see the stars falling, fairly well, when you hear the chariots calling, fairly well, getting up morning, fairly well, in that great, getting up morning, fairly well, when you see the lightning flashing, when you hear the thunder crashing, when you see the stars a-falling, when you hear the chariots calling, good news, chariots coming, good news, chariots coming, so glad, chariots coming, and I don't want to be left out. There's a long white robe in the heavens, I know. Long white robe in the heavens, I know. Long white robe in the heavens, I know. I said good news, chariots coming, good news, chariots coming, so glad, chariots coming, and I don't want to be left out. In that way, getting up morning, fairly well, in that way, getting up morning, fairly well, in that way, getting up morning, fairly well, in that way, getting up morning, fairly well. This is my egg bag. It's called an egg bag. Understand what I mean? We keep this in the refrigerator at home, see? And it's empty until we need it. For example, this morning, my wife wanted a couple of eggs, so she takes the egg bag from the refrigerator, says the magic words. Kind of silly, but you have to do it. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Silly, but it works. See? It makes an egg. And we can keep on taking as many eggs as we want out of this bag. By the way, this is not a real egg. This is just a wooden egg that I use with the trick, laid by a decoy. Okay, I'll put the egg back in the bag now and make the egg disappear. See, in the hand is quicker than the eye. That's why there's so many black eyes in here. The egg has completely disappeared. See? You got quiet in here, didn't it? I heard somebody over here say it's under his arm. I heard him whisper it's under his arm. Okay, if you think it's under my arm, raise your hand. See, I thought so too, see. Actually, what happens, see, it goes back in the bag, just like that. Now, I always explain how to do this trick. Very simple trick. So here's the secret. Inside the bag, see, I have a chicken in there. But there's the eggs. So now you know that one, see. All right, thank you.
40 years ago is when I started performing, and it was at a talent show during the Threshing reunion. So I'm almost as old as a reunion. Won't tell you exactly how. I would like to sing for you one of my faves. And truly is a wonderful world. I'm going to sing that, especially this little town.
smiles and some tears. To a taxi returned to a long ago scene, and a pretty young lady named Minnie Moline. As lovely a maiden as one could behold, was extolling the merits of pure prairie gold. In beautiful color, so radiant was she, poised at the wheel of the new Model T. In the old Tapper's farmer did Minnie appear. I could not take my eyes from her, she was a dear. With a smile that was dazzling, she came into view, standing so proudly by the Randy Luxview. A picture of virtue and all that was fine, she advertised the big M&M line. From planting till harvest and all times between, this girl did her part for Minneapolis, Moline. For the MT, the JT, the R and the J, also the KT and the MTA. And his new ones were on there in the bright golden hue. She held high their banner, so faithful and true. All the time, those relentlessly, each passing day, and it seemed like prairie gold was slipping away. And sadly, we watched as they passed from our view. The tractors, the machinery, and this, many too. One day some good people had an idea so bold. They do their best to bring back prairie gold. And at their first meeting, they crowned them a queen. Rightly they named her Miss Minnie Moline. I often look back to the fond yesteryears, and as I turn life's pages, once again there appears in all of her beauty, enchanting the sea, the ever so lovely Miss Minnie Moline.
Boy, you know, that Thursday evening entertainment is just great, and it sure is a nice way to introduce our show and to welcome the folks for our golden anniversary. The musicians and the audience were just great, so we're going to just let you take a little bit of look around the showgrounds and see what kind of things you can expect to view when you do come to the Dalton Show. And this year, as we've said before, we're featuring Minneapolis Moline, and this is just a view of our staging area for the Minneapolis lineup. And when we say lineup, that includes machines and tractors and exhibits of all sizes and shapes related to the Minneapolis line of machinery and the equipment. Now on Saturday evening, you'll see a tractor pull, and the fellas are going to be trying to, and gals too, are going to be trying to see who can tug the blue ox or the little babe sled as far down the track as possible. Minneapolis made some garden tractors, and we've got several examples of that are available for your viewing pleasure. so many machinery companies, they made the big ones as well as the little ones, and so it's just really fun to see what special collections folks have. Special treat at the show at the end of our tractor pulling time with the gas and diesel and LP fueled machinery is our steam tractor pull, and they're just a real fine example of horsepower in action. John Halverson is here with me, and John, what can you tell us about a steam engine pulling?
Well, one of the things that's fun to do with a steam engine when you're pulling it is you have actually 3 valve settings. Opens the valve that lets the steam into the cylinder. And if you start with the smallest opening and it sounds like the engine's just about ready to die out on the pull, then you just open a little bit more. And by the time you get down to the end, you got it to the 3rd notch, and you're really shoving some steam to it. It's fun when we do this after dark, because then we get kind of a fireworks show too, cleaning out the flues and sending a few sparks up.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, you bet. Now, I took my life in my own hands and climbed the windmill, and so we're looking kind of down on the grounds here, a little bit bigger viewpoint, a little higher up, and you can see some of the other lines of machinery that we have also. And Les Holte does a nice job of lining them up in the order that we have shown them in the past, so that you can tell what was last year, and you can see a few case up in the corner up there. And so each year we feature a different line of machinery. And for the 2004 show, now we're going to be featuring Alice Chalmers. So Alice Chalmers will be the closest ones to our Minneapolis line. And then in 05, it'll be the Farmall and International Harvester lineup. And again, just a few more images of the Minneapolis folks and what they've brought. Plows, discs, combines, drills, haying equipment. You name it, if Minneapolis built it, there was probably an example of it at our show. John, what can you tell the folks about our lineup here?
Well, one nice thing, as far as the rotation, it worked out our 50th show, and of course the official color of Minneapolis Moline is Prairie Gold.
That was really nice.
So we're using the Prairie Gold for our golden anniversary. Minneapolis Moline, of course, is a grouping together of different lines at the Minneapolis Thrash Machine Company and the Moline Plow Company and the Twin City Tractor and Machine Company. Actually formed into the Minneapolis Moline in the mid-30s, I think, is about the time that they all came together.
Quite a few years ago, yeah. And they each brought their own specialty of engineering and production into that Minneapolis Moline Company. I remember going to the Minneapolis factory down in the Twin Cities one time with some of my students when I was teaching school, and it was interesting to tour the factory.
Yeah, it's surprising the number of times I drove by the old Lake Street factory and never thought I'd be involved in collecting Minneapolis Moline.
This is kind of a special tractor here, John. It's got Minneapolis Moline #1, our parade number #1. It's a UDLX. You've got one that's almost reassembled.
Well, it's in the process of being reassembled. This is a really nice example of a UDLX, the U Deluxe. Built in 1938. It came out way ahead of its time, really. It had a cab. Cab had a heater, radio, spotlight on top. It had an arrangement where you locked out a couple gears in the transmission, changed over the linkage on the governor, and you could get about 40 miles an hour going down the road with them.
It's got a license plate too.
Yeah,
so,
1938, Minnesota.
So they must have had to license that as a vehicle then in order to do that.
I think some states require that if you're going to use it as a Saturday night go-to-town vehicle, you better have license plates on it. Yeah. But this is, you talk to a Minneapolis Moline collector and you ask him which tractor he'd really like to have in his collection, 99% of them are going to say, I'd sure love to have a UDLX.
Yeah, man, it's got push-button radio on it too, it looks like.
First, I want to start talking a little bit about
Let's take another look at our third evening
Oscar
entertainment.
He's 94 years old. He was born 1909 in Columbus, North Dakota. He moved to Dalton in 1914 when he was just 5 years old. He's lived in Dalton ever since. Just 90 years he's been here. He was married to Magna Spitzberg in 1932, and they were married here in the Spitzberg log home that has been restored here on the grounds. And if you go to the north here, it's the middle log cabin, so be sure to check that out. They worked really hard on refinishing that this year. Oscar owned and operated the auto repair shop in Dalton for many years. Later, he managed the International Harvester Shop in Ashby for 20 plus years. When he was in his late 80s, he spent over 2 years restoring a Caterpillar 60 crawler. This unit is on the grounds and is run during the parade each day. He still loves to dance and does almost every week. His big claim to fame is, for many years he has helped here at the threshing grounds where he mows the grass with his riding lawnmower whenever there is grass to mow. He bought a new riding lawnmower last year at the age of 93 because his had quit working properly. At this time, I'd like to crown the 2003 Pioneer King, Oscar Rude. Much of the planning for the very first threshing day was done around the kitchen table at Kenneth and Margaret's home. Margaret would brew the coffee and the men would talk steam engines and plan. The early years would find Margaret at the show with her small children, then several years later helping serve coffee and meals to the Threshermen at the ladies' aid stand. Margaret also would be found in the rural schoolhouse sharing memories with the visitors about old school days. Margaret has never missed a show and is now joined at the show by her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, making it 4 generations. Her sons are now proud owners of Kenneth's steam engines. I'm very honored to crown Margaret Brattle the 2003 Pioneer Queen.
These are some of the pieces of our heritage that have been placed in the museum building over the years by various families. More or less a permanent display. Miniatures that have been placed in a display case. Steam engine, overtop hay stacker. Model Oliver looks like. This one I believe came off an old steam engine or a locomotive. Perhaps it has a handle, could be carried as well. Kerosene lantern. There's a catalog even. You can buy lanterns. This particular one is $42. Probably have to look quite a ways to find a catalog with highway safety flare torches. Bunch of tools, various blacksmith and farm tools. Oh, there's a 2-burner gas stove. I wonder if the coffee is ready. governor, belt-driven governor, off with the steam engine.
In my old collection, which recalls bygone years, I reflected my memory with smiles and some tears. To a fancy return to a long ago scene, and a pretty young lady named Millie called me. In my old collection, which recalls bygone years, I reflected my memory with smiles and some tears. To a fancy return to a long ago scene, and a pretty young lady named Millie called me.
Well, welcome back. This is Wayne Swenson and my able co-host John Halverson, and we'll be reviewing a little bit again about what happens at the Dalton Threshing Show. This is a view from the windmill, looking at our area that we put our exhibits into, our grass area that the fellows keep mowed so well during the summer. And our Minneapolis lineup is on display. This is our 50th anniversary, our Minneapolis Marine exhibition, Prairie Gold, for our golden anniversary. So, John, what can you tell us about the Minneapolis line?
Well, as I said earlier, the Minneapolis line is a grouping together of 3 or 4 major machine companies. Back in the mid-30s, the Minneapolis, the Twin City, Moline Plow Company, and really a good line of machinery, probably in a lot of aspects a little bit ahead of its time, especially as we talked earlier about the UBLX that came out in 1938. Sounds like, in what I've been able to learn about the company, it was probably just a case of mismanagement, and which is too bad because, like I said, they made a good line of machinery.
They did. The Minneapolis machines that I'm familiar with from our show and from farming earlier, we didn't use them ourselves, but the neighbors had some, and they were definitely a dependable, heavy-duty machine. And especially out in the wheatlands of Montana and Dakota, where I grew up, they were very excellent machines.
Yeah, when they came out with like the big G1000 Vista, that was really quite a tractor at the time.
Mm-hmm. You bet.
And we attended a show down by Sioux Falls, South Dakota this summer, and there we've seen some of the bigger Moline tractors that we really don't see in this part. Although we had a four-wheel drive articulator at our show this year for the first time.
Mm-hmm. It's it's amazing what you can see, and each threshing show around the nation has its own specialty, but you pull in a lot of examples from folks that want to display their wares from other cities, towns, states, and we're no different, so we get to see some things that aren't normally what you find in the farms around the Fergus Falls area and Dalton area, which were the small diversified farm and not the large multi horsepower tractors that you see out in the wheatlands and the flats of, in the Red River Valley or other parts of the country.
In the area where I grew up in central Otter Tail County, Moline was quite a tractor back in its day. That was a good 3-plow tractor in our part of the country. Probably even in some of the lighter parts, you could pull 414s with a Moline. You had to get a little ways away from here, a little further west, and then you started seeing the big G's, back in the 40s. And like I said, then you get a little bit further west out in the real wheat country, then you see the wheatland, the Vistas, G1000s, and those bigger tractors. And also, one thing Moline was really good at was coming out with that front wheel assist. I didn't realize there were that many models with front wheel assist till we were down at the Lennox show down there by Sioux Falls this summer.
Just a little earlier, you saw a shot of some of our flea market area, And each year we have a large flea market. A lot of folks come just to participate in that, and there's a lot of bargains to be found. So if you're the shopper type person, why, we got something for you too. Here we're taking a look at some of the other lines of machinery that we have featured in the past, the Ford line there, and you find Cockshut and Oliver, and way back in the background you see Case, which we featured last year. So I guess the folks there did all the hard work last year, and they didn't want to bring so many this year. And that's kind of the way it works, though. You feature one brand, and then they can ease off the next year. So it's always fun because there's so many different examples of special machines that the folks have put together and restored. Some of them are still in their work clothes, so to speak, and others are all dressed up in their Sunday best paint job. So you get to see a huge variety no matter what show you go to. Here you can see some hay equipment, some planting equipment, and well, they even stuck a John Deere in there. My goodness.
One of the unusual tractors, and I think we'll see it here just in a moment as we pan here to the right, is a nursery tractor.
A nursery tractor? I
Yeah,
hadn't heard of that
really,
one.
you know, you hear about the high crops, but Dennis Solvay from down in central Minnesota brought up his nursery tractor, and it's built to work, you know, around nursery trees.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a high crop. One thing that Moline had is they had their, what they call their uni-harvest
Uni-harvester?
where you actually had one power unit. By itself, it didn't look like much of a tractor, but then you had all the different implements that it's attached to.
Well, that was nice. Now, here we have a board member from our show, David Johnson from Fergus Falls, and he's polishing up a B. Alice Chalmers. He wants to get that ready for our show next year, which will be featuring Alice Chalmers, and a B very similar to this one is going to be given away. Each year we pick a model of a tractor from our featured line, and it's restored, and then we are using that as a fundraiser for our show. So David just wanted to make sure this one looked good in the video so that we could promote Alice Chalmers for next year. You'll find tickets that are available at our spring show. We'll be out at the Westridge Mall here in Fergus Falls in January with the toy show that the mall folks put on. And then in March and April for our spring tractor show that we put on. John, what's the story on this one?
This is a big Twin City. There's only two of these that I know of. This one here, which was brought down from the Rolog show. And then there's one in a museum up in Canada. Mm-hmm. And both of them do run. The one in Canada is brought out once a year from the building and started up, and they do run it. But it's the big 60, the big Twin City. And that thing, you get up alongside of it, that is one big tractor.
And it sounded very smooth, too.
Yeah,
it's a six-cylinder, really. And didn't they use that on a special plowing exhibit that they did up at Rolog?
No, that was, they used the Rumleys on
Oh, the Rumleys, that's right.
On that plowing up there at Rolog.
Still kind of looking for your nursery tractor here.
There it is, right there.
Oh, there it
just
was.
went right by it.
It had that rounded front fender so
Yeah.
that it could work its way between the bushes. Yeah. Combines, you name it, we've got it. And so we'd just like to invite anybody and everybody that is interested in restoring a little bit of the past, you know, to join a threshing organization in your area to help promote the rich agricultural history of our forefathers that enabled us to eat well and to live well. Well, here's Minneapolis Moline Parade number 1, John.
Yeah, here's the UDLX, the U Deluxe Moline. Sheldon Knudsen from Goodrich, Minnesota, brought that down to our show this year. Goodrich is up just southeast of Thief River Falls. So it was a nice little trip down here for Sheldon. Of course, he comes down every year anyway, so he might just well bring a tractor down and enjoy himself.
Did he trailer it, or did he drive it on the road? He must.
I think for that distance, he probably trailered it down here. Even at 40 miles an hour, it would take quite some time to get down here. 150 UDLXs were made in 1938. Last I heard, there's approximately 70 to 75 of them accounted for throughout the world.
Is that right? Wow.
So that's one of the reasons they're really quite a collector's piece.
Well, when you could work all week on the farm, and then by changing some minor linkage and locking out a couple gears, you said that you could run it to town on Saturday evening,
Yeah,
or
you
to
just
church
lock
on
out every
Sunday?
gear in the transmission except fifth and second, I believe it is. And then if you look at the governor on a UD election, it actually has two arms that come out that the linkage attaches to, and when you flip that over, it just lets the governor open up a little bit wider. Now, here's a tractor that was new to our show this year. It was brought in by Richard Rorvig. It's a Farmall High Crop. And it's MVD, I believe. It's
MDV, M diesel, and the V is the high crop. And Greg Eastwood and his son Garrett restored that and got it ready for Richard. So
I understand this tractor came in from California.
I wouldn't doubt it a bit, because they would have used the high crops in the garden farming that they do down there, with all their row crops for lettuce and asparagus or whatever. Here we've got a Baker fan that would have come out of a steam engine factory, and they would have used that to test the steam engine valving and making sure everything was functioning before they shipped it out. This is a 1941H Farmall trying to work the Baker fan, and there's so much wind resistance that the poor H just can't get more than about half of its working RPM, simply because of the power demands that are put on a machine when you run a fan like that. This is a 1943 M Farmall, and Mark Swenson from East Grand Forks is operating it, trying out his plow. The ground was so hard this year because of our really dry late summer, so we he's looking for some ground that the plow will actually dig into. I think the plowshares could stand a sharpening, but our local blacksmith hasn't been in business for several years, so it's a little harder on the old plows that you have to find a blacksmith to actually get them to work well. But this is a three-bottom little Genius plow that International Harvester made, and it was a good matchup for the M Farmall. It's got a trip on the tongue, so that if a rock was snagged by the plow, it would release without breaking things, and hopefully the rope wasn't tied too tightly, and it would also disconnect so that you wouldn't break the seat off or have the rope snap back at you.
You didn't want to tie it around your ankle.
You didn't do that.
Trip it with your foot.
No, you didn't want to trip it with your foot. Looks like you found a little softer ground there. The tractor's digging in pretty good. This is a Thiemann tractor, and it looks homemade almost, and basically it was. There weren't very many of them made, but Chuck Adelsman is the owner of it. You see he's got a Farmall seat on it, and it's got a Model A Ford for engine in it, and so I don't know how many other varieties of machinery you can locate on this tractor, but it's an interesting one, and the carburetor's a little bit fussy on it, and so he was trying to make sure that he got it running and that it would stay running.
Kind of interesting, the number of so-called tractors that were built using the Model T and the Model A engine, sometimes the complete drive train and the rear end.
A lot of innovation. These are some of our gas engines that were on display. Some of the fellas have a lot of them, and they just leave them on the trailer, which is fine. It's a lot of work to load them up, and so they just leave them there. But the engine was a power source, and this was in the days before REA, and a lot of farms had these as a portable source of power for grinding feed.
A lot of water was pumped using those one-lungers, as they were called, single engine, or single cylinder.
Single cylinder. Some corn shellers, if you wanted to shell some corn by hand for the chickens. New Way is a brand of engine that I hadn't heard much about, but here's a real nice display. A lot of collectors are real serious about their machine, and they look for the minute examples of the paper, the color printing, and so on to make their display just a real educational opportunity. And if you like sculpture work by Charlie Kirchenwick is doing some artwork here. He makes case eagles even on top of a ball. We had some of them at our show last year, and so he kind of shaped another eagle there, doesn't it look like that, John?
Mm-hmm. That's one of those things, fellas, that saying go on TV, we don't recommend you do this in your living room.
I don't think that would be very pleasing to your mother or your grandmother or your wife either. This is what we call a stiff-leg crane. John, can you tell us a little bit about it?
This crane, the whole unit came out of a pole trading yard in, I believe, on the north side of St. Paul, somewhere in that area.
Okay.
A number of years ago. And we have what's called a hoisting engine that's steam operated. It's a steam engine. And basically now we're using it to lift the logs over onto the rack for the sawmill. Mm-hmm. And then we're lifting the pallets of the
finished wood?
The
sawn
lumber that comes off the sawmill and setting them over in front of the planer building.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll see the planer building here in just a little bit.
So just another example of how things were moved around before they went to all of the forklifts and everything else that we do have today. This is our planer building, and this is a four-sided wood planer where a board goes in right from the sawmill on one end, and it comes out smooth on all four sides as you pick it off the rack on the other side. This is all flat belt driven, and I don't think that OSHA would necessarily approve of this. Do you, John?
Oh, we want that much. This has been quite a work in progress. It's taken quite a while to get this planer going again. Bill and Weinberg spent many hours working on this and getting it going. And this year at the show, I think it must have ran all day for all 3 days.
You can hear it quite a ways, too.
Yeah, it is a rather noisy machine.
They did a lot of lumber planing, and it really helps our members later on for the building projects that we want to complete in the next season. So we really appreciate the fellows doing the work here. There were lots of more careful workers, I think, in the past, perhaps, because we didn't have so many safety gadgets. But this is the Olsen-Spitzberg house. This was brought in by the family, and it was restored. The logs were all re-chinked and everything made weatherproof again. John, do you know any more about it? I'm not too much up on my history on this one.
This house was built about 1903, if I remember right, and about 3 miles north of Dalton on the Dalton-Underwood Road.
Mm-hmm.
It's popple logs, aspen as they call it out west. And it sat right next to where I live for a number of years, and I did not realize that it was a log house originally. I'd been in the house a couple times. And then when Clayton and Marion Anderson bought the place, they wanted to build a new house, so they moved this and found out it was log. And it sat for quite a while, and then through some visiting with the Andersons, it was then donated to the association, and the Spitzberg family took it on as a family project. I think I even got adopted into the Spitzberg family on a couple of occasions to help them out. But it's really a labor of love when you get a family together restoring something that is part of their history.
Mm-hmm. And it's history in action, and you can relive it. And it's nice to see that. Once in a while we get visitors to the show that show up in unexpected modes of transportation, and the parasails came in. They had a reunion of some sort the same weekend as our show, a few miles away from Dalton, and so they came. There was about 30, 40 of them, if I remember right, that buzzed over the grounds and took a good look at us. They came in close and went around just looking us over real carefully. So they were enjoying the sights and sounds of the Dalton show as well. And back on the grounds again, just letting you folks enjoy seeing what we got here. And now we're going to be going into our tractor square dance. So we'll just kind of let the caller tell you what's going on.
We usually do something nice and simple to begin with, just so they get the feel of the tractor and the feel of the field as they're going around. For those of you that are square dancers, we do all square dance calls. We just don't do anything that causes them to back up. Circle to the left and keep on going, keep on chugging. Hey, hey, and hi-dee-ho. We're going to have to keep it a little tighter, folks. Okay, girls back track. Girls wheel off, go the other way back. Wheel to the outside, folks. Wheel to the outside, go the other way back. Outside, go the other way back. Anybody coming? Ask your partner, look for the corner. Find that corner, Almond left with the old left hand. Hey, hey, ho, ho, left hand. Squeeze the ring. Wind it in, wind it out, wind it in, wind it out. Wind it in, wind it out, wind it in. Hey, 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 ho, everything good. When you meet your partner, wheel in behind, follow them back home. Somebody got lost here. Follow back home, home and home control. Everybody get back home. Home, 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 home. Let's all go back home. Circle around, all the way around, all the way around. Keep on going over there. Keep going, keep going. Circle to the left, go all the way around, all the way around. Just keep on chugging there, they'll go. These are actually all square dancers that are tractor drivers as well. The only thing is we don't have our own tractors, so we depend on the show to furnish us the tractors.
Well, John, after you danced yourself so that you were all tired out, now you got to go out and pitch bundles. So, there's a lot of work as well as play on a farm, and here's an example of the working part of it. Fellows are lining up the steam engine, attempting to get the belt properly tensioned and lined up so that it will be able to power the threshing machine.
For those of you that head back the tractor into a belt from time to time, you know how much fun it can be with a tractor, and then you multiply that by about 100 times, and then you that's what I've always figured when I've tried to back a steam engine into a belt. It's not that easy. You're dealing with a heavy machine. You're dealing with something that the only power steering is what you have between your wrist and your shoulder.
Armstrong.
That's the Armstrong power steering. And
the belt does occasionally slip off that large pulley a lot easier than it would a smaller one on the more modern gas tractors. But a long belt, they had to have some room between the steam engine and the threshing machine to allow the wagons and horses to move in and out, and that's a safety hazard that we don't normally come across anymore today, except at a show like this. You do not want to walk around a belt when it's moving.
This is the big Minneapolis separator that Ralph Melby, I'm not sure where he got it, but this is, I think it's about a 44-inch.
Mm-hmm.
That means you got a 44-inch cylinder in it.
44 inches wide, and it's what you call a double wing feeder.
Yeah, the reason for the wing feeders, Wayne, was this was set up for stack threshing. And years ago, especially in this area, the farmers would stack their grain, and they would do it in a 4-stack setting.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could bring the separator in with the wing feeders and stick the wing feeders out between the 4 stacks, and that's would be your setting then for thrashing out that grain. And I know some of the people, like my father-in-law, used to thrash, started out in the Dalton area, and a lot of times would end up with his steam thrashing rig clear down in the Brandon area.
Mm-hmm.
And with the stack thrashing, you could thrash right up into wintertime as long as you could get to the stacks. And I think some years, if I remember hearing him talk right, there was even sometimes they'd go back down in the spring.
Well, it would weather. I mean, it was in a pile, and other than just a little bit on the outside edges, why the grain that was on the inside would be in good shape. And
if the stacks were stacked right, they were waterproof. And that's a lost art. We don't have many people left anymore that can stack grain. I've tried it a couple of times. It looks so easy when you watch the old timers do it. It's an art. It's definitely an art.
Yeah. Here we don't normally thresh into a manure spreader, but the folks from our horse display needed a little bit of bedding, so they thought they'd just load up their spreader the easy way. When the grain was thrashed, the machine would deliver it up to a hopper on the top, and it would measure the grain, and there was a counter that would automatically count the number of bushels that were being threshed, so the farmer would get an accurate idea of the production of his machine. And just like the old timers, the farmer wants to inspect the quality of the grain.
There's a 28 horsepower Minneapolis single cylinder steam engine powering the separator. Belongs to Mike Harstead from Parker's Prairie, and Mike is a good operator at a show. He likes to keep his engine active. If he's not on the separator, he's going to be out on the plow. He likes to keep his engine moving all during the show.
In my old collection, which recalls bygone years, I reflected my memory with smiles and some tears. To fancy return to a long ago scene, and a pretty young lady made merry over me. In my old collection, which recalls bygone years, I reflected my memory with smiles and some tears. To fancy return to a long ago scene, and a pretty young lady made merry over me.
This is the tractor pull, and we've got 2 sleds at Dalton. The Blue Ox sled was first, and then later we made the Little Babe sled so that we can provide a load for any size tractor from the smallest to the largest. And we've got a lot of folks that come in and enjoy having a chance to show off their pride and joy, and a little friendly competition along the way. This is Wayne Swenson, and I usually do the announcing at the polls. Mark Johnson was able to finish his tractor pulling efforts, and he did well. And so we'll let him take over and do the announcing for the remainder of the video.
Hey, nice looking pole there. Give John a hand. And these super antique tractors, a little bit spruced up. And he's going to get on that Z in just a minute. a G6. And John Marquardt pulling in again now on his Z. He's going to pull off against Rich Lorzell in that John Deere A. A little too slippery there, but a nice run in G6 propane. The Mini's going to do it. All right, how do we think the John Deere is going to do it? Okay, we'll see what's going to happen. I love Minneapolis Marines, but I'm going to just be neutral here. We're going to see two good pulls here. All right, here's John Marquardt. Nice run, Z. For you just a second. On the Big Blue Ox kit, Greg Easterwood's pole was 86.11. John Marquardt's pole 75 even. 75 feet even. On the near track, Joe Reichenberg out of Morris with John Deere out of East. There for Joel Reichenberger. It's a close one, 125.5, 121 feet, 5 inches. Here are your results in that class. In first place, John Marquardt on his Minneapolis Marine GB with a pull of 122 feet. In second place, right behind him, Joel Reichenberger out of Morris, 121.5, 121 feet, 5 inches. And in third place, Garrett Eastwood out of Dalton with a pull of 86 feet, 11 inches. All right, here's Rich Lorzell. Here you go, John Deere fans. 1937 unstyled John Deere A. He's got to beat 75 feet. Let's see what we have. Okay, here's the results. Your winner, Rich Lorzell, 79.4. In second place, John Marquardt with a pull of 75 feet. So some good pulling there between those two. I have all the results. Alright, here's a G6. This is Troy Rubin out of Underwood, 1959, Minneapolis Marine G6. Just about 3 more hooks and then the steamers. Advance only. When they're done, let's give all these guys a big hand. They stay up extra late to keep the steam on. And you got to stay there until the steam gets down to 1/3 of the pressure you can carry, so they'll be around a little later. A little quieter than the tractor, but plenty of power. Hold on, let's give him a hand, a big hand. That was quite a pull. There's Richard's son Tyler on hooking, if he can find the hook under there. On it. And again, this is the Canadian Special, they call it. A little thicker boiler and also a little bigger wheels in the back, a little heavier gearing. These wheels normally go on a 35 horse Minneapolis. Again, Mike Harstead, the owner of this engine, purchased a few years ago from, I believe, the Martinson family here. And this is a powerful engine. And then following that, we're going to have a slightly smaller Minneapolis, a 24 horse pull. I think we're set to go here. Separator. And here we go. Take a listen here as well.
with Rusty and Prince. Rusty and Prince, 10 and 13 years old. Rusty's on the left, Prince is on. Both of them are geldings. Next up, we got Jeremy Scoyen from Roseville, Minnesota. Jeremy is pulling 2 geldings also. Bob on the right, on the left, and Blaze on the right. Bob is 5, Blaze is 16, and they're both Threshermen. Up next, oh, I missed Dennis, I guess. Dennis Fick from Litchfield, North Dakota. He's pulling a team of geldings. Bruce on the left is 9, Bud on the right is 7. 2 Belgian geldings. He's from Litchfield, North Dakota. Up next, we'll have Henry Garoy from Hillsboro, North Dakota. He's pulling Duke and Dan. Duke and Dan are both 15. Both geldings. Belgian. And our last puller be Clayton Scoyer with Buck and Buster. Buck on the left hand is 9. Buster on the right side is 8. When I say left and right hand, that's from walking behind. Just what the driver's looking at. The right hand horse is Buck. The left hand horse is Buster. First of all, I want to welcome everybody now to Dalton here, to the horse boat, and we appreciate all of you taking the time to stop by. Hopefully we can put on a good show for you today. Kind of limited on teams. A couple of them didn't show up, but we're going to do the best with what we have. But we're going to start today's poll is a percentage poll. So what's going to happen is the horses are different weights. Some horses are heavier than others, and I'll explain this throughout the poll here. We'll have plenty of time to explain how everything works. What we're going to do is we got one new guy here, this Dick Watkins, that's pulling locally. He's never pulled these horses before. He just wanted to try it. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the skid empty. The skid weighs about 1,500 pounds or so empty. He's going to give it a try, see what he can pull. His team only weighs about 2,670 pounds. The heaviest team here will be 3410, which is Hank here. So Dick, if you're ready, we'll get things started here. A full pull, they'll have to pull it 20 feet. There's a chain in the back of the skid with a stick or a pole in the ground that'll pull that 20 feet. Let's add one of those bricks down there. No. Okay, because Dick here is new, we're kind of giving him a chance to get the feel for this. His horses to get the feel. Normally what we do is we'd start out at 3,000 pounds, and we'd add 1,000 pounds a couple times with the other horses. But being he hasn't pulled before, we're giving him the opportunity to kind of get his horses to get a feel of what's going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this weight. We're going to bring his skid up to 2,000 pounds, and we're going to let Dick try it one more time. If he pulls it, then we'll go ahead and we'll add 1,000 pounds, bring it up to 3,000, and then everybody will pull. So we kind of got to bear with us a little bit here in the start till we get things going. But we didn't want to dump 3,000 pounds right on this little team because they would have had a hard time pulling that right off the bat. That's one try.
Okay, boys, let's go. Come on, guys. Steady, steady, steady.
2 tries. He can unhook and come around if he wants, or he can stay hooked to it, whatever he prefers. If you got 3 attempts, then you can stay hooked for all 3 tries. You can unhook after the second one, but if you do unhook after your first attempt, you do forfeit your second one. Good try, good first try for Dick. Go ahead and measure that up and we'll get a 30 inches. Up next. That's a full pull. We'll give you the percentages of where they're at. And you'll notice that the lighter teams, of course, will have the higher percentages than the heavier teams. The heavier team in a percentage pull has to pull more weight just because they're heavier. Okay, that was Howard Wolf out of Ypsilanti. Okay.
Check with him before I go run with somebody else. I don't know where I don't see Glenn, but he's here right now.
The end, when the loads get real heavy, those last 3 teams pulled 6,000 pounds through. He's pulling a team weighing 3110. Everybody be quiet and give him the best opportunity. One. Two. You'll take a breather and come back around. I'm going to pull that line straight over there, Judge. Going to come back around for a third attempt and then rest here for a sec. You won't want to leave when the pull is done. We're just going to kind of compare when it's over. We got a couple tractors down here, a couple of these older tractors. We're going to hook onto this weight and just kind of see, kind of give you a comparison of what the horses can pull versus the tractor, these older tractors, of course. Weight-wise, we really should find out whoever's got the tractor that's going to be bringing it in, they should have an idea of what it weighs. A team of horses here weighs around 3,400 pounds, 3,100 pounds. You bring a tractor in that weighs 4,000 pounds, well, they should definitely pull a lot more than this little team of horses. you pull percentage-wise. So you won't want to get up and leave right away when we're done. While we're kind of figure out those final percentages, make sure, double check, make sure they're okay. We're going to have those tractors come in and pull a little bit when we're done, just so we make sure we got everything. Like I said, it's her first time, so we got to make sure. Better give her a chance to double check everything. Again, this is Dennis Pick on his third attempt, and I believe it's 6,500 pounds. Quiet. Just tell him if he doesn't go back and pull it, you're not sending them holds. He's got a determined look in his face. I think we talked him into it. Where's your tape measure? Oh, wait a minute. Where's your tape measure? We gotta give him the same advantage the horse has got, you know. Now, Pete. Okay. going to be embarrassed. He said he didn't have a choice. They made him do it.
In my old collection, which recalls bygone years, I reflected my memory with smiles and some tears. To a fancy returned to a long ago scene, and a pretty young lady made Billy for me. In my old collection, which recalls bygone years, I reflected my memory with smiles and some tears. To a fancy returned to a long ago scene, and a pretty young lady made Billy for me.
Well, we're back at the Dalton Threshing Show. It's September of 2003, and we're taking a look at our little French locomotive made in Ducaville, France, back in the early part of the 20th century. And it went through 2 world wars, and it was used for a lot of different things, ammunition hauling and everything else. In fact, before we had it all painted up and fixed up, there were even some bullet holes in the cab, and I was kind of sorry to see them all welded up and closed up. You know, it really looked neat to have a bullet hole or 2 in there. Maybe we can get one of those fake bullet holes and stick on there, I guess. But this is a very sweet running little engine, and our state steam inspector always smiles when he takes a look at it, because you know, everything on it is just in excellent shape and ready to go to work. So the station master is directing traffic. Everybody gets a ride. They get a ticket on the Dalton Railroad. A little ride around the showgrounds area. Nice grassy area that the folks deep mowed, and we got a lot of room for more displays here, fellas and gals. So if you're taking a look at our video today, consider what you can put on here. We need some suggestions for more things to attend to. So enjoy the train ride. Take a look at our displays. We're near the flea market area right now. You can see the stiff-legged train in the background. And we're getting close to the wood planer building. Center of the activity of our showground. We'll pass by the Sawmill Cafe, where the ladies have got excellent food. This engine was brought in this year from the Rolog show, and it's a Otto Langen engine, one of the very earliest engines that was ever made back in the 1870s. There was a video that accompanied the display, and Otto was one of the original inventors of the gasoline engine, and so this was one of his efforts with Mr. Langen to put together some kind of a machine that did not depend on steam to provide power for industry. I don't think they were thinking about farming at the time, but, some way to pump water out of a coal mine or something of that nature. But this was a non-compressing engine. So they hadn't got to the point where they figured out that if you compress air and fuel and then burn it, then you get an awful lot more power. So this is not very much power for its size, but you got to start somewhere. We moved next door, and this is our gas engine building. Several different displays in there, different gas engines, various sizes. They stay in the building at our showgrounds, and the fellows come in and make sure that they're working and running. It's fascinating to me anyway, and a lot of other folks, to watch the valves and the machinery, how it all fits together, and how the developer, the inventor of that particular machine made it work and work well. If we go over to our wheel-lock building, then we've got a nice toy display every year put together. It features a lot of the toys of the brand that we happen to be featuring. This year's Minneapolis Moline for our golden anniversary. And you find all the way from pedal tractors to from the 1/64th scale to 16th scale, and a lot of other examples as well. We put our feature tractor, the folks that are working with that feature in this building, so they're registering the Minneapolis collectors, and it's just a nice place for folks to come and look and see the examples of not only the full size but the toys, and it's the wheel-lock engine that the building is named after, as you'll see in just a moment here. Glass showcases are nice. If you got an extra one, you could probably take it off your hands. This little fella didn't look like he was having too much fun, but he's wondering if that little boy was hurt or what. He's looking him over pretty good.
The first time I seen that display, I had to stop and do a double take.
He's probably just resting.
It's pretty realistic. Yeah, it's
Pretty heartbroken there. Little pedal tractor off the wheel.
And this is a display. This particular engine that's running is a Wankel engine, and the gentleman from around Red Wing, Minnesota brings this in, and so he's got Red Wing marine engines, and he put a Wankel on it this year, so that one came from Germany. Red Wing engines were used for powering out, these were an inboard for the working boats on the rivers and lakes of our country. Slow, but very reliable. It's always nice to see a display where there's where the signs are there and explaining what's going on, and seeing all polished up. In our diesel building, we've got two engines, a single and a twin cylinder, and these engines are used as the main power source for the factory they came out of. John, you remember where these came out of? It's all blank there at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. One came from Rockport on southeast of Open Road, and the other one came out of the mill east of Dalton at Miller.
Okay. So until we stand corrected, the single cylinder was they just put two of them together and attached the crankshaft, and they had a twin cylinder. What do we have here, John? It's a K steam engine, looks like.
K steam engine, get a little better view of it. I believe that's a little 40 horse owned by the Risford family. Here we have a 25 horsepower Scott single owned by the Glenn Melby family. That's one of the original engines. Been at the show for 50 years.
And it still can work really well.
Yeah, it's been repiped this year, which means the exterior piping was brought up to code. This is another one of the original engines. This is a 25 horse double cylinder Gar Scott. This was owned by Ralph Melby. Now owned by Luther Melby, his son.
And the inspection of our engines each year is very important, and that's one thing that we're pleased about, is that the fellows that do exhibit are very careful to make sure that the engines are in excellent shape.
We inspect the engines in two different ways. Next year we'll be pulling the engines out and doing what we call cold water tests. We fill the boilers up with cold water and then pump them up to a certain pressure. And then the other one is actually an ultrasound test where they check the critical points on the boiler with ultrasound. It actually gives you the thickness of the boiler plate that's left.
Now here we have our parade, and the steam engines always lead out the parade, and for reasons of historical importance, the threshing machine, this would be the rig, and this is the way that it would go down the road from one farm to the next. Do you recognize the tractor, John?
Yeah, this is an 80-horse case that was owned by Dennis Rockwell. Now it's owned by his son Joel. Next engine here is the engine that my son Eric and I own together. This is a 25 horsepower stock single. This engine came from down west of the Twin Cities area. I believe the name of the town was New Germany. I'm looking a little closer, trying to pick these engines up. This is a Keck Donnerman. You don't see too many of these engines this far west. This was you see probably a lot of these in the states like Pennsylvania and out that way. This looks like a Nicholson Shepherd.
The canopy that was over the steam engine provided some shade for the operator, but it also kept the sparks from raining down their neck too.
This they were the Woods Brothers, one of the Woods Brothers that we have at our show. Roy Martinson from Moorhead. That was a 40-horse case owned by Jim Wistler. Got its own full bumper that we have at behind of it. The unique thing about the trailer behind it is it's cabled up to the steering. So when you back up, you don't have to worry about steering.
The trailer will steer with it.
This is an engine that was brought up or brought down to our show this year. It's a Minneapolis engine. This year is also in Minneapolis. This is a 28 horse Minneapolis. I'm pulling a 10-bottom John Deere plow. This is what the plows look like for both the prairie plows in the Dakotas and eastern Montana. I think close to 20 miles.
It took a lot of men to stand on that platform and run the levees.
Yeah, each one had to be dropped in by hand. Coming into some of the older, these are Minneapolis tractors. Minneapolis, Minneapolis tractors. And of course, here's a gem of the Minneapolis motor in the UDLX. With the Minneapolis Marine Power Unit.
The different manufacturers provided power units. They just took the tractor's engine and put it on a skid of some sort and attached a belt pulley to it so it could be used for industrial pumping or generating electricity or whatever the need. We've seen many of them perhaps at the old circuses and fairs around the country.
We went through probably the late 30s, early 40s on the tractors you see coming down the Minneapolis Marine.
These would be row crop tractors designed for cultivating and working with row crops as compared to tractors that were designed for working in the prairie. And here's the politician wagon, John.
One way to spread it around. I remember a politician years ago that actually motorized one of these things and drove it around in the field.
He got a lot of attention.
He was county commissioner for a number of years.
This would be more of a wheatland tractor. You know, the axles were non-adjustable, and it would be a good plow or a disking tractor, something where you didn't have to fit between the rows of corn or beans or whatever.
The tractor that you've seen about two tractors before that's on here is a good example of one thing that Minneapolis Marine did a lot of, and that was LT power tractors. Electric propane.
That's okay.
They were pretty much the forerunner in putting out the LT tractors. R10.
Looks like a UDLX almost.
Almost.
The advantage of an LP fueled engine is that it burned very, very clean. The engine oil stayed nice and clean. It did not get dark. And so a lot of folks use that. It was also economical if you were in an area of the country that had the availability of the fuel. Took a little bit extra work. You couldn't just open the cap and pour in a 5-gallon can of fuel.
Like I say, four-wheel drive. Another LP powered motor.
Like a lot of companies that you don't see today, perhaps the demise or the absorption of their brand into another company was a management thing, or perhaps labor and management problems caused the company to be sold. And, not always to the benefit of the farming community. And like you said earlier, that the Minneapolis line had some excellent machines, very durable, and it was kind of a sad day to see them go. This looks like a high crop, John.
It's a real high crop. I have to call them UTC. The C, I think, puts the king.
Okay.
Now you're starting to see some of the tractors that are more popular, just the rest of them in the wheat tractors. Big G series.
There's also an LP equip.
Yep. There's all the working tractors there, so there's a D1000. And the long tractors.
We have to go around the field quite a few times to combine with that one, wouldn't you, John, compared to the ones that we see today.
But for the small farmer with 160 acres, 240 acres farm, it's a nice unit. It's something that they can afford. And of course, like you said, you put it out onto a half section of land, it's a half acre.
A little bit of our international harvester lineup, which will be featured in 2005. And we got a loader. This one here is a blade attachment on the front of it. So there's an early version of a way to make the farmer's life just a little bit easier. This is a friction drive. I believe this gentleman was, he probably had to rush from his dinner appointment and get in line for the parade, but he didn't want to finish eating his pie in a hurry, so he took his pie right along with him. The Funk conversion. And they also had a V8 available as well as the original 4-cylinder Ford engine that was very popular. And there was a Model G Alice. Alice Young was going to be featured in 2004.
Model G made a nice little driver's tractor actually.
Absolutely. Like a balloon with a blade mounted right in the front.
Absolutely.
Perhaps. Oh, Harris, I'm sorry. It was an M anyway. There you go.
On the feature tractor last year. We have a 10-year rotation on our feature tractors. So 2012.
There was Les Holte at the end of the parade. He's our parade director, so when we see Les coming along, we know that the parade is finished. Horses are part of our show as well, and we certainly appreciate the fellas bringing the horses in to add another dimension to the show. And this is where it all started, with the horses, and then we got into the mechanical horsepower as time progressed. But the working with a horse was always so nice and quiet, and you were very, very much in touch with your farm, the farmland that you worked on, and Probably wouldn't be such a bad idea if the folks of today were just a little bit more in touch with reality as such. Beautiful match set of horses there. Took a little while to get the harness on and to take care of all of the leather work that was there, but then you still got the work of cleaning up. So this is one part of the horse farming that the fellows with the tractor didn't mind not having to do.
And the nice thing, I'm going to take the part of the tractor owner on this one here.
Okay.
The nice thing about a tractor in the fall when you were done with your work, you put the tractor in the machine shed.
You didn't have to feed
And
it.
you didn't have to walk up behind it once every other day or something and clean up behind it. You didn't have to put feed in front of it. It
Yeah.
sat there till spring.
Yeah.
But then those horses are beautiful as
Yeah.
long as they belong to somebody else.
Yeah. It's nice to appreciate them from a distance. Here we're back in the wheelock building, and I believe the operators here have got the cylinder warmed up. It takes quite a while to get this engine running each day because you got to warm the cylinder up and make sure the parts are fitted together properly. And we got a large steam boiler, fuel oil powered compared to a lot of the boilers on the grounds that are fired by wood or coal. So here the steam boiler, or the oil-fired boiler is cooking away, and we'll have our 110-ton wheel lock revolving shortly. That was quite a project to move that in.
That was an interesting project. I didn't get in on taking it out, but I got in on some of the reassembling of it.
Okay.
And to give you an idea of the size of that engine, when you look at the 26-foot flywheel in the background, each spoke section came separate. And they're joined together by what we call dog bones, which you can see on the side face of the wheel. They were heated red hot and taken out, and then they were heated red hot and put back in, and then they went down and pulled the wheel together.
Mm-hmm.
But each spoke with its section of the wheel was 4.5 tons. And I believe there are 16
individual spokes.
in the flywheel.
It took a little bit more than a few hours to reassemble that one. Quiet, power, the governor there that would control the speed of the wheel, and if the machinery it was attached to started working hard, the governor would open up the valve and allow a little bit more steam to enter so that it could maintain the RPM that was being desired by the folks at the factory.
This engine came out of a zinc roller mill in west central Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
There was this engine and another one the same size and then a big one. And this one had started to be cut up just for the salvage of the metal in it before we got it, but we were able to salvage it and get it back to work in order. It's a cordless valve engine.
This is, if my memory serves me correct, this is the largest wheel lock that's in operation in the United States today. So we're very pleased to have it at our show and enjoy watching it operate each year. A huge flywheel, just so quiet and powerful. Well, we sure appreciate you folks joining us for our video, and we invite you to come back for our next show. And John and I'll be announcing the parade, and just would like to say thank you for coming. Come on back again and bring somebody with you.